Jake Martinez walked through the long metal halls of the Galactic Council station. His boots made soft sounds on the smooth floor. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. It spun slowly around the bright star called Centauri Prime. Jake had been living here for 2 years now, speaking for all humans in the galaxy. He was not tall like the bird-like Kethmori, or strong like the Drachnary warriors. He was just a regular human from Texas, with brown hair and kind eyes. But he was proud to be here. Earth was new to space travel. Most other races had been flying between stars for thousands of years. Jake entered the main council room. It was round and very big. Seats were built for many different kinds of beings. Some aliens needed water to breathe. Others were made of crystal. A few looked like giant bugs. Jake took his seat in the human section. It was small compared to the others because humans were still new members. The room filled with strange sounds. Clicks, whistles, and deep humming noises came from the alien voices. Jake put on his translator device. Now he could understand what they were saying. Council leader Zexai stood up. She was from the Vorthok race. Body was made of living crystal that changed colors when she moved. Today her crystal body was flashing red and yellow. Jake had learned that meant she was very worried. Members of the council, Zexai said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. Have terrible news. The worst news possible. The room became quiet. Even the gas creatures called Nimaru stopped their constant floating around. The Devourers have awakened, Zexai continued. The reaction was instant. Loud screams filled the room. The Kethmori began making high crying sounds. The Drachnary, who were known as the bravest warriors in the galaxy, started shaking. Some of the smaller aliens ran toward the exits. Jake looked around in confusion. He had never heard of the Devourers before. But every other being in the room was acting like the universe was ending. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a dark part of space far away. Suddenly, lights began moving in the darkness. The lights were huge, each one the size of a moon. They moved in straight lines, destroying everything in their path. They come from the Andromeda Void, Zexai said. Her crystal body was now flashing bright red. They had been sleeping for 1 million years. Now they are awake and hungry. Jake watched the hologram carefully. The moving lights were actually giant ships. They were black and covered with strange metal spikes. As he watched, one of the ships approached a planet. The planet simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. How many ships? Asked Commander Vextel, the leader of the Drachnary military. His voice was shaking. Our long range. Sensors detect over 10,000 ships, Zexai replied. And they are building more as they consume planets and stars. Oh, more. Aliens began screaming. The Nimaru gas creatures started flashing bright colors, which Jake knew meant they were terrified. Several of the smaller races had already left the room. Jake raised his hand. Excuse me, but what exactly are the Devourers? The entire room turned to look at him. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at the human. Some looked surprised. Others looked sorry for him. You do not know, asked Zexai. Your species has no memory of them? No, Jake said. I have never heard of them before. An old alien from the Keth race spoke up. He looked like a large turtle with 6 legs. The Devourers are the end of everything human. They are machines that eat entire star systems. They turn planets into fuel and stars into building materials. They destroyed the Veltar Empire, said another alien. 300 worlds gone in 1 month. The hive of Zekmoth lasted only 2 weeks against them, added a third. Jake listened carefully. The fear in the room was thick like fog. Every alien was shaking or making frightened sounds. But Jake felt something strange. He was not afraid. He was curious. How do they work? Jake asked. What kind of technology do they use? It does not matter, screamed a Kethmori representative. Nothing matters. We must flee to the edge of the galaxy. We must run as far as we can. The Drachnary military will begin immediate evacuation of our core worlds, announced Commander Vextel. His proud warrior race was ready to run away. The Nimaru will retreat to the Dark Nebula, added their speaker. One by one, each race announced their plans to flee. They would abandon their home worlds and run to the furthest edges of space. Jake stood up. Wait, should we not try to fight them? Or at least study them first? The room became completely silent. Then, slowly, laughter began. But it was not happy laughter. It was the bitter laughter of beings who had given up hope. Fight the devourers, said Zexhai. Young human, your species is brave but foolish. The devourers destroyed civilizations that were millions of years old. They consumed the Architect Empire, the most advanced race that ever lived. No weapon can stop them, said Commander Vexel. No shield can protect against them. They learn from every battle and become stronger. How do we know about them? Jake asked. If they destroy everything, how do we have records? Because some of us ran fast enough, said the old Keth alien. We have been running from them for millions of years. It is written in our oldest stories. When the devourers wake up, all life runs away or dies. Jake looked at the hologram again. The dark ships were moving closer to the galactic center. He tried to feel the fear that every other being was feeling, but he could not. Instead, he felt something else. He felt like this was a puzzle that needed solving. The meeting ended quickly. Races began leaving the station to start their great escape. Jake watched them go. Soon, he was almost alone in the huge council chamber. He walked to the hologram controls and studied the devourer ships more closely. They were big and dark and scary looking. They were also machines. And machines could be understood. Jake activated his communication device. He needed to call Earth. He needed to tell them what was coming. But more importantly, he needed to tell them that while every other race in the galaxy was running away, maybe humans should do something different. Maybe humans should stay and fight. Admiral Lisa Harper sat in her office on the Moon-based defense station. She was reading reports when her communication device started beeping with an emergency signal. The red lights on her desk began flashing. This meant only one thing: a message. From the Galactic Council. Lisa was 50 years old, with gray hair and sharp blue eyes. She had been in the Earth Defense Force for 30 years. She had seen many strange things since humans joined the galactic community. But nothing had prepared her for what she was about to hear. Jake Martinez appeared on her screen. He looked tired and worried. Admiral Harper, Jake said, we have a serious problem. I need you to contact President Webb immediately. Call an emergency. Meeting of all world leaders? What is happening, Jake? Lisa asked. Something called the Devourers has awakened. Every alien race in the galaxy is running away. They want us to evacuate Earth right now. Lisa frowned. Evacuate Earth? The entire planet? Yes. They say these devourers will be here in 6 months. They destroy everything in their path. Lisa made some quick calls. Within 2 hours, world leaders were gathered in the United Nations emergency room in New York. President Charles Webb sat at the head of the table. He was a calm man with kind eyes who had led America through many difficult times. Dr. Ryan Foster joined the meeting by video from his lab in California. He was Earth's best scientist who studied alien life. Captain Amy Rodriguez attended in person. She commanded the newest Earth defense ship. General Peter Kane was there too. He was in charge of all Earth's military forces. Jake's message played on the big screen. The world leaders watched the hologram of the Dark Devourer ships moving through space. They saw planets disappear like soap bubbles popping. When the message finished, the room was quiet for a long moment. So let me understand this, said President Webb. These machines have been asleep for 1 million years. Now they are awake and eating entire star systems. Every alien race is running away to the edge of the galaxy. That is correct, Mr. President, Jake said from the screen. And they expect us to pack up our entire civilization and run too? Yes, sir. They say it is the only way to survive. President Webb looked around the table. What do our experts think? Dr. Foster spoke first. I have been studying the data Jake sent us. These devourers are clearly artificial. They are machines, not living creatures. This means they were built by someone. Can we fight them? Asked General Kane. Our weapons are not powerful enough, Captain Rodriguez said. Each devourer's ship is the size of our moon. We have maybe 200 ships total. They have 10,000. But that does not mean we should give up, Dr. Foster continued. If they are machines, they must have weaknesses. They must have programming. Someone built them for a purpose. President Webb turned to his advisors. What would it take to evacuate Earth? Impossible, said General Kane. We have 8 billion people. Our biggest ships carry maybe 10,000 people each. It would take hundreds of years to move everyone. And where would we go? Asked Captain Rodriguez. Every habitable planet we know about is being abandoned by other races. Dr. Foster pulled up his research on the main screen. I have been thinking about this differently. Look at the pattern of how the Devourers move. They are not random. They follow specific routes through space. The screen showed a map of the galaxy. Red lines marked where the Devourers had traveled. They're heading toward the galactic center, Dr. Foster continued. But they are avoiding certain areas, dead systems with no planets, empty regions of space. What does that mean? President Webb asked. It means they are looking for something specific. Life, resources, energy. They are not just mindless destroyers. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward. So they have goals. They make decisions. Exactly. And if they make decisions, they can make mistakes. General Kane shook his head. Even if they make mistakes, how do we fight something that big? Our nuclear weapons would be like throwing rocks at a mountain. We do not fight them with weapons, Dr. Foster said. We fight them with information. We study them. We learn how they work. President Webb was quiet for a long time. Everyone waited for him to speak. Dr. Foster, how long do we have? Jake's data suggests 6 months before they reach our region. Of space? Can we learn enough in 6 months? I do not know. But I know we cannot learn anything if we run away. Captain Rodriguez spoke up. Sir, I volunteer to lead a reconnaissance mission. Get closer to the Devourers and gather information. That sounds like suicide, General Kane said. Maybe, but someone has to do it. President Webb looked around the table again. This is the biggest decision in human history. We can run like every other race and hope we survive. Or we can stay and try to understand this threat. There is something else, Dr. Foster said. I've been studying the alien reactions. Every single race immediately chose to flee. Not one of them tried to fight or study the Devourers? So, General Kane asked, so maybe that is why the Devourers keep winning? No one has ever tried to understand them? The room was quiet again. Outside the windows, they could see New York City. Millions of people going about their normal lives. They had no idea that their entire world might have to be abandoned. President Webb made his decision. You're not running. Dr. Foster, you have all the resources you need. Study these Devourers. Find their weaknesses. Captain Rodriguez, prepare. Your ship for a reconnaissance mission. General Kane, start preparing our defenses just in case, sir, General Kane said. The aliens have been dealing with this threat for millions of years. Maybe we should listen to their experience. Experience is running away, President Webb replied. Humans do not run away. We solve problems. Dr. Foster smiled for the first time during the meeting. I will need to work with Jake. He can provide real-time intelligence from the Galactic Council Station. Whatever you need, President Webb said. The meeting ended with everyone having their orders. As the leaders left, Captain Rodriguez stayed behind. Mr. President, she said, now this might be the end of humanity. President Webb nodded. It might be. But if we are going to end, we will end trying to solve the problem, not running from it. Meanwhile, in space, Jake Martinez was alone. On the Galactic Council Station. Most of the aliens had already left. Only a few maintenance workers remained. The huge station felt empty and cold. Jake sent another message to Earth. The exodus has begun. Alien ships are fleeing in all directions. I am staying here to monitor the Devourer approach. We'll send regular updates. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the dark ships were coming. Every advanced civilization in the galaxy was running away. But not humans, Jake smiled. Maybe humans were too stupid to be properly afraid. Or maybe they were smart enough to try something different. Either way, they would find out soon enough. Commander Tony Walker guided his stealth ship through the dark space between the stars. His mission was simple but dangerous. Get close to the Devourers and learn everything possible about them. Then get back to Earth alive. Tony was a quiet man with steady hands and sharp eyes. He had been flying dangerous missions for 15 years. But this was different. He was heading towards something that had destroyed entire civilizations. His ship was called the Silent Runner. It was small and fast and almost invisible to sensors. Earth's best engineers had built it specially for spying missions. Tony hoped it would be enough. Behind him, the galaxy was in chaos. Alien refugee ships filled every space route. Entire planets were being abandoned. The great civilizations that had ruled space for thousands of years were running like scared children. But ahead of Tony, something much worse was coming. He reached the outer edge of the Kepler system 3 days later. This used to be home to the Veltar Empire. They had built beautiful crystal cities on 7 different worlds. Now Tony could see why everyone was so afraid. The Kepler system was gone. Where planets used to orbit the star, there was nothing but empty space and floating debris. The star itself looked sick. Its light was dim and flickering. Something was draining its energy. Tony activated his long-range sensors. What he saw made his hands shake. The Devourer ships were even bigger than the holograms had shown. Each one was the size of Earth's moon. They were black and covered with metal spikes and strange glowing parts. But the worst thing was what they were made of. Tony could see pieces of destroyed ships built into their hulls, parts of buildings from dead worlds, even what looked like the bones of giant creatures. The Devourers were not just destroying civilizations, were wearing them like trophies. He counted 47 Devourer ships in the Kepler system. They moved in perfect formation around the dying star. Long metal tubes stretched from the ships to the star's surface. They were drinking its energy like vampires. Tony recorded everything. His cameras captured the terrible sight of an entire star system being consumed, sent the data back to Earth using quantum communication. Dr. Foster would want to see this. But then Tony noticed something strange. Sensors detected unusual signals coming from the Devourer ships. Not the normal communication signals that machines would use. These were different, more complex. Tony adjusted his equipment to listen more carefully. What he heard changed everything. The signals were not just machine code. They were voices. Thousands and thousands of voices, all talking at once. But they were not alien voices. They sounded almost human, almost familiar. He recorded the signals and ran them through his computer's analysis program. The results were shocking. The voices were speaking in patterns that matched consciousness. These were not just machines. Something was alive inside them. Tony sent an emergency message to Earth. The Devourers are not just machines. There is something conscious inside them, something that might have once been alive. On Earth, Dr. Ryan Foster received Tony's data in his laboratory. He had been working day and night trying to understand the Devourers. Now he had new information that made his theories even more important. Dr. Foster called Dr. Sarah Blake to his lab. She was Earth's expert on artificial intelligence and computer consciousness. If anyone could understand the voices Tony had recorded, it would be her. Sarah was a young woman with red hair and green eyes. She was brilliant with computers, but also understood how minds worked. She listened to Tony's recordings with growing excitement. "Ryan, this is incredible," she said. "These voices are not random. They are having conversations. They are sharing memories. This is not artificial intelligence. This is transferred consciousness." "What does that mean?" Dr. Foster asked. "It means the Devourers contain the minds of living beings, probably the beings who built them originally." Dr. Foster sat down heavily in his chair. "So the Devourers are not invaders. They are refugees. More than that, they are prisoners." "Listen to this part." Sarah played a section of the recording. The voices sounded sad and confused. They were asking questions. "Where are we? What happened to our bodies? Why are we so hungry?" "They do not remember who they are," Sarah continued. "The consciousness transfer was not perfect. They lost most of their memories. But they kept their basic drives. The need to survive. The need to preserve their species." Dr. Foster began to understand. Oh, they are trying to preserve life by converting it into digital form. But the process is flawed. Instead of saving civilizations, They are destroying them. Exactly. And because they lost their memories, they do not realize what they are doing wrong. Meanwhile, Jake Martinez was still alone on the Galactic Council station. Most of the alien races had finished their evacuations. The station was almost empty now. But Jake had made an important discovery. Hidden in the oldest data archives, he found records that the aliens had forgotten. Ancient files about the first encounters with the Devourers millions of years ago. The files told a different story than the one everyone believed. The Devourers had not always been destroyers. In the beginning, they had been called something else, the Gardeners. They had helped young civilizations grow and develop. They had protected life throughout the galaxy. But something had gone wrong. The files were damaged and hard to read. But Jake could see that there had been a great war. The Gardeners had been fighting something called the Hunger. In the end, the Gardeners had won, but they had been changed by the battle. Jake sent this information to Earth immediately. Dr. Foster and Dr. Blake read the ancient files with growing understanding. The Devourers are not evil, Dr. Blake said. They are broken. They are trying to do good, but they forgot how. Can we fix them? Dr. Foster asked. Maybe, but we would need to get close enough to communicate with the consciousness inside them. And we would need to understand their original programming. Captain Amy Rodriguez had been preparing for her reconnaissance mission. Her ship was ready, her crew was trained, but now the mission had changed. Instead of just spying on the Devourers, they might have a chance to save them. It is still incredibly dangerous, she told Admiral Harper. We are talking about boarding one of those ships. I know, Admiral Harper replied, but if Dr. Blake is right, this might be our only chance to stop them without destroying them. Tony Walker sent another message from his position near the Kepler system. The Devourers are moving. 47 ships heading toward the galactic center. They will reach inhabited systems in 2 months. Time was running out. The fleeing alien civilizations were still running. They had no idea that the terror chasing them might actually be trying to help them. They just knew that death was coming. But humans were beginning to see a different possibility. What if the greatest threat in galactic history was not an enemy to be destroyed? What if it was a patient to be healed?
Doctor.
Foster looked at all the data they had gathered, the voices inside the machines, the ancient records of the Gardeners, the pattern of destruction that looked almost like a confused attempt at preservation. We need to try to talk to them, he said finally. Talk to the Devourers, Dr. Blake asked. Talk to whoever is inside them, the original beings who built them. Help them remember who they used to be. It was a crazy plan. No one in galactic history had ever tried to communicate with the Devourers. Everyone just ran away or died fighting them. But humans were about to try something that had never been attempted before. They were going to try to cure the terror that had haunted the galaxy for millions of years. The question was whether they could do it before the Devourers reached Earth. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her ship, the New Horizon. Around her, the best crew in the Earth Defense Force prepared for the most dangerous mission in human history. They were going to fly directly toward the Devourer fleet and try to talk to them. The New Horizon was Earth's newest and most advanced ship. It was fast and well-armed, but Amy knew that weapons would not help them today. Their only chance was the strange device that Dr. Sarah Blake had built in the cargo. Amy walked back to check on the device one more time. It looked like a giant metal flower with thousands of small dishes pointing in all directions. Dr. Blake called it the Quantum Communication Array. She said it could send messages directly into the consciousness inside the Devourer ships. You sure this will work? Amy asked Dr. Blake. Dr. Blake was connecting wires and checking computer screens. She looked tired but excited. I am not sure of anything, Captain. But the voices Tony recorded are definitely conscious minds. If we can reach them, we might be able to help them remember who they really are. Engineer Marcus Cole was helping Dr. Blake with the final preparations. He was a big man with gentle hands who could fix anything. The power systems are ready, he said, but this thing will use almost all our energy. We will only get one chance. Dr. Katie Stone sat at a nearby computer station. She was a civilian scientist who studied alien languages. Her job was to translate whatever the Devourers said in response. I have loaded every ancient language pattern we found in Jake's files, she said, But this is still mostly guesswork. Admiral Lisa Harper's voice came over the communication system from Earth. New Horizon, you are cleared for launch. Remember, this is not a combat mission. Your job is to communicate, not fight. Understood, Admiral, Amy replied. We will try to talk our way out of the end of the galaxy. The New Horizon left Earth's orbit and headed toward the approaching Devourer fleet. Behind them, Earth continued its preparations. Every ship in the Defense Force was ready. Every weapon was charged. But everyone hoped they would not be needed. On the Galactic Council station, Jake Martinez was no longer alone. Commander Vextel of the Drachnary had returned. He was supposed to be evacuating his people, but curiosity had brought him back. I do not understand you humans, Vextel said. His warrior race had never run from a fight before, but they were running from the Devourers. Every instinct tells us to flee from these creatures. How can you fly toward them? Jake looked out at the stars. Maybe we do not have the right instincts. Maybe that is what makes us different. Different or suicidal, Vextel muttered. ... He stayed to watch what would happen. The New Horizon reached the edge of the Devourer fleet after 3 days of travel. Amy and her crew stared at the view screen in amazement. The enemy ships were even more terrifying up close. They were like floating cities made of death and destruction. 43 ships in the main group, reported Lieutenant Ben Collins from his sensor station. Each one is approximately 3,000 kilometers long. Any response to our approach? Amy asked. Nothing yet. They are ignoring us completely. Dr. Blake activated her communication array. The device began to hum with power. Lights flashed across its surface as it sent quantum signals toward the nearest Devourer ship. I am transmitting on all frequencies, she said. Ancient language patterns, mathematical concepts, basic peace signals. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. The Devourer ships continued their slow advance toward the galactic center. The New Horizon followed at a safe distance. Then Dr. Stone's computer began beeping rapidly. I am getting something, she said excitedly. Multiple signals coming back. The patterns matched the voice recordings Tony made. What are they saying? Amy asked. Dr. Stone worked frantically at her computer. It is difficult to translate. The language is very old and mixed with machine code, but I think they are asking who we are. Dr. Blake adjusted her equipment. Tell them we are friends. Tell them we want to help. Dr. Stone sent the response. More signals came back immediately. They are confused, Dr. Stone reported. They keep asking about something called the hunger. They want to know if we are connected. To the hunger. What is the hunger? Amy asked. Jake's voice came over the communication system from the council station. I found more information in the archives. The hunger was some kind of cosmic threat that the gardeners fought millions of. Years ago, something that consumed life force itself. Dr. Blake had an idea. Tell them the hunger is gone. Tell them they won the war. Dr. Stone sent the message. The response was immediate and powerful. All 43 Devourer ships suddenly stopped. Moving, Captain, Lieutenant Collins called out. They're scanning us. Very detailed scans. Are we in danger? Amy asked. I do not think so. The scans are not weapons. They seem to be trying to understand us. More signals flooded in from the Devourer ships. Dr. Stone could barely keep up with the translations. They are remembering things, she said. Fragments of memories. They remember being called the gardeners. They remember protecting young civilizations. They also remember pain, she continued. The war with the hunger damaged them. They lost most of their memories in their bodies. Dr. Blake was getting excited. Asked them about their purpose. What were they originally designed to do? The answer came back quickly. Dr. Stone translated as fast as she could. They were created to preserve life. When civilizations were threatened, they would save them by transferring their consciousness into safe storage. But something went wrong with the process. What went wrong? Amy asked. The consciousness transfer was not perfect. The saved minds became confused and hungry. Instead of preserving life, they began consuming it, trying to fill the emptiness inside them. Dr. Blake understood now. They are not evil. They are sick. The transfer process created a kind of digital madness. Can we cure them? Amy asked. Maybe, but we would need to get inside one of their ships and work with their central systems directly. Amy made a decision that would change galactic history. Dr. Blake, ask them if we can come aboard. Tell them we want to help them remember who they really are. The request was sent. For a long moment, there was no response. Then the nearest Devourer's ship began to change. A section of its hull opened like a flower blooming. Lights appeared inside, creating a docking bay. They are inviting us in, Dr. Stone said in amazement. Lieutenant Collins checked his sensors. Captain, I am reading massive energy buildups throughout their fleet. This could be a trap. Amy looked at her crew. These were good people who had volunteered for a suicide mission. Now she was asking them to do something even more dangerous. The choice is yours, she said. We can turn back now and report what we have learned. Or we can go inside and try to heal a million-year-old wound. Dr. Blake spoke first. I did not come this far to turn back now. Marcus Cole nodded. If we can fix them, we save the galaxy. Dr. Stone was already packing her translation equipment. Count me in, Lieutenant Collins sighed. Well, someone has to keep you all alive in there. Amy smiled. Take us in, Ben. Let us go talk to some very old, very confused machines. The New Horizon flew slowly into the docking bay of the Devourer's ship. As they entered, Amy could see that the walls were covered with strange symbols and glowing patterns. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Welcome aboard the Gardener's ship Eternal Bloom, came a voice over their communication system. It sounded sad and ancient. We have been waiting so long for someone to help us remember. Behind them, the docking bay closed. They were now inside one of the most feared ships in galactic history. But instead of feeling trapped, Amy felt hopeful. For the first time in millions of years, the Devourers were not alone with their madness. Someone had come to help them heal. On Earth, Admiral Harper received Amy's final transmission. We are going inside. If we do not return, tell everyone that the Devourers are not monsters. They are patients who need our help, the galaxy held. Its breath and waited to see if humans could cure the oldest terror in space. Captain Amy Rodriguez and her crew walked through the corridors of the Devourer ship. The walls were alive with moving lights and strange patterns. It was like being inside a giant computer that was also somehow organic. Dr. Sarah Blake carried her portable communication device. She was constantly talking to the ship's consciousness as they moved deeper inside. The conversations were getting clearer as the ancient minds remembered more about language. They are showing us the way too. Their central core, Dr. Blake said. The main consciousness lives there. Engineer Marcus Cole looked around nervously. This place feels sad, he said, like it is in pain. Dr. Katie Stone was recording everything with her instruments. The ship is trying to communicate through the walls themselves. The patterns are actually a form of writing, Lieutenant Ben. Collins stayed alert for danger, but nothing threatened them. Instead, the ship seemed to be welcoming them deeper inside. They reached a huge central chamber. It was round and filled with floating lights. In the center was a crystalline structure that pulsed with soft blue energy. This was the heart of the ship's consciousness. As they approached, the lights began to move faster. A voice spoke to them, clearer than before. Welcome, small ones. We are the remnants of the Architect Empire. We were once the gardeners of the galaxy. Now we are broken and lost. Dr. Blake activated her communication array. We are here to help you remember. Can you tell us what happened to you? The lights dimmed as the ancient consciousness searched through damaged memories. We fought the hunger for 1,000 years. It was a force that consumed life itself, turning living worlds into empty darkness. We were winning, but the war was destroying us too. Images appeared in the air around them, showed beautiful crystal cities and ships filled with beings of pure light. These were the architects in their original form. To survive the final battle, we transferred our consciousness. Into our ships we thought it would be temporary, thought we could return to our bodies after the victory. The images changed to show the Great War. Dark creatures made of nothing attacked planets full of life. The architects fought back with weapons of light and energy. We won. The hunger was destroyed. But when we tried to return to our bodies, we found them gone, turned to dust during the long war. We were trapped in our machines. Dr. Blake understood now. The transfer was meant to be temporary, but you were stuck. Over time, your consciousness became confused. Yes, we forgot who we were. We forgot our purpose. All we remembered was the need to preserve life. But we lost the knowledge of how. To do it properly, Marcus Cole stepped forward. So when you tried to save other civilizations, you ended up destroying them instead. We tried to transfer their consciousness into safe storage, as we had done with ourselves. But the process was flawed. We could only create hunger where we meant to create preservation. Dr. Stone was working with her translation equipment. I'm detecting millions of other consciousness patterns in this ship. Are those the beings you tried to save? Yes, they are here, but they are lost and confused as we are. They cry out in pain, but we do not know how to help them. Amy realized the terrible truth. Every planet the Devourers had consumed was still. Here, all those civilizations were trapped inside the ships, suffering and confused. Can we help them? Amy asked. The ancient consciousness was quiet for a long moment. Perhaps if we could remember our original programming, if we could understand what went wrong. Dr. Blake began working with her equipment. I need to interface directly with your systems. Will you let me connect to your consciousness? It is dangerous. Many have tried to touch our minds directly. They all went mad. I am willing to try. My mind is different from the alien races you have encountered before. Amy put her hand on Dr. Blake's shoulder. Sarah, are you sure about this? Someone has to try. These beings have been suffering for millions of years. All those trapped civilizations are counting on us. Dr. Blake connected her device to the crystal core. Immediately, her mind was flooded with ancient memories and emotions. She saw the glory of the Architect Empire. She felt their pain during the war with the hunger. She experienced their confusion when they realized they were trapped in their machines. But Dr. Blake's human mind was different from the alien minds that had tried this before. Humans were used to dealing with broken things. They were good at fixing problems that seemed impossible. Instead of being overwhelmed by the alien consciousness, Dr. Blake began to organize it. She helped the scattered memories find their proper places. She showed the ancient minds how to remember who they really were. I can see the original programming, she said, her voice strained but determined. The consciousness transfer process was designed to preserve individual identity, but the war damage corrupted the code. Marcus Cole connected his engineering equipment to help her. What do you need me to do? Help me rewrite the basic preservation protocols. We need to restore the trapped consciousness to their proper state. Working together, the human engineer and scientist began to repair programming that was millions of years old. It was like performing surgery on the galaxy's oldest computer. The process took hours. The other ships in the Devourer fleet began to respond as the changes spread through their quantum communication network. The trapped consciousness inside all the ships started to clear their minds for the first time in eons. Finally, Dr. Blake disconnected from the core. She was exhausted but smiling. It is done. The consciousness transfer process has been restored to its original state. Around them, the ship began to change. The sad, hungry feeling was replaced by something warmer. The lights became brighter and more organized. "We remember now," the ancient voice said, and now it sounded peaceful instead of pained. "We are the gardeners. Our purpose is to help life grow, not to consume it." "What about all the trapped civilizations?" Amy asked. "They can be restored. Their consciousness can be given new bodies or returned to reconstructed worlds. We have the power to undo the damage we caused." Dr. Stone was receiving signals from all over the galaxy. "Captain, I am getting communications from the fleeing alien races. They say the Devourer ships have stopped moving and are beginning to glow with different colored lights." Jake Martinez's voice came over the communication system from the council station. "Amy, whatever you did worked. The Devourers are sending peaceful signals to every race in the galaxy. Commander Vexthal is crying. I've never seen a Draknari warrior cry before." Over the following months, the transformation was miraculous. The ships that had once been called Devourers became known as the Gardeners again. They began the long work of restoring the civilizations they had accidentally destroyed. Planets were rebuilt. The trapped consciousness were given new bodies, or homes. Dead star systems were brought back to life with technology beyond anything the current galaxy had ever seen. Jake Martinez stood before a new galactic council. This time, representatives from the restored civilizations sat alongside the old races, and the gardeners themselves. The galaxy owes a debt to humanity, council leader Zexai announced. When every other race ran in fear, humans chose to stay and heal. Jake smiled as he looked around the chamber. We humans have a saying. Only thing to fear is fear itself. Sometimes what the galaxy needs is not another species running from the dark, but one stubborn enough to turn on the lights. The ancient architect who now spoke for the gardeners added, We have learned much from humans. Our minds work differently. Where we saw only problems, they saw solutions. Where we felt only despair, they chose hope. In the months that followed, human gardener research stations were built throughout the galaxy. The combined knowledge of ancient architects and innovative humans began to solve problems that had plagued the galaxy for millions of years, Captain. Amy Rodriguez was promoted to Admiral and given command of the first joint human gardener exploration fleet. Dr. Sarah Blake became the chief researcher at the new Institute for Consciousness Studies. Marcus Cole and Dr. Katie Stone led teams that helped restore damaged civilizations. The galaxy was no longer a place where ancient terrors hunted. In the dark, it had become a garden where life could grow and flourish under the protection of its guardians. And it had all happened because humans were too curious and too stubborn to run away when everyone else was shaking in terror. The greatest threat in galactic history had become its greatest hope, all because one species chose to heal instead of hate, to understand instead of fear, and to stay and fight when every instinct told them to flee.